What's up guys, Dan here, Coalcracker. Today we're going to be talking about emergency preparedness kits and what you should be packing in yours and considerations that you should be taking. And then finally we're going to take a look at one of my kits that I carry with me quite often. So first of all, what's an emergency preparedness kit? So it's emergency equipment that you carry with you on a daily basis inside your vehicle, or maybe you leave at your office or your place of work, or even just have in your apartment or your home, that if something would happen, that you have a way to deal with that situation a little bit faster than if you didn't have your stuff packed up. So that's really what it comes down to. Now you can look up the terms bug out bag and get home bag and 72-hour kit and all of this, and it is a rabbit hole of wildness. I mean, you will see some crazy stuff happening there. So I'm going to give you my take on the easiest and most effective way to put one of these kits together, because I can tell you from personal experience talking with students that most of the people that come out to take survival and bushcraft classes have this safety and preparedness mindset anyway. So this carries over really, really well. And you're going to see a lot of the things that I believe should be in these bags are very similar to things that you're going to have in an outdoor environment. So if you're camping, bushcrafting, practicing all your survival stuff, all that stuff's going to carry over very well for you in your preparedness kit. So like a survival kit, a preparedness kit really follows the same template for the most part. It has these main categories that we need to touch on, and depending on where you are and your environment and your ultimate goal is going to depend on what actual gear falls into each one of those categories. So in survival we talk fire, water, shelter, food, and you know from if you watch this channel that you can make those kits super small. You could take a cup, a T60, and a lighter, and like a little Cliff Bar, and you literally, I mean, you have a survival kit. Or you can build a survival kit out that's like this big and just have all this extra stuff, and you're not right or wrong either way, right? It just comes down to your personal preference, your training, and what you're most comfortable with. So when it comes to a preparedness kit outside of a wilderness setting, it's the same exact thing. Now the three categories that you need to focus on when putting together a preparedness kit is going to be survival, personal protection, and travel communication. Now, knowing these three categories and building your kit to this is going to give you an advantage, because if you cover each one of the categories and you have equipment to handle each one of those, you're going to be able to handle almost all of the scenarios that are thrown at you, be it man-made or natural disasters that you come across. One example of this might be if you live here in the Northeast, you get stranded on an interstate, a bad snowstorm comes through. It happens all the time here in Pennsylvania. The interstate system gets shut down and people are stranded for hours, and then emergency services have to come in. Can you sustain yourself during that? Can you sustain yourself if you're in an urban environment and the grid goes down? You know, we look at that kind of scenario. You have the equipment you need with you to just keep yourself safe and healthy until you can get back home. So let's break into my kit. We'll look at each one of those categories and then we'll go a little bit further into it. All right, so let's start out. This is a Mystery Ranch backpack. I did make some modifications to this thing. You're gonna notice a lot of my gear is more subdued earth type colors, and the reason for that is because of where I live. So I live in a more rural environment. The towns that I would be around or in are very small populations. So most of the time, if I was going from point A to B, let's say from my work to home, and I can't take my vehicle or something wild happens like that, I'm in the woodlands. So that's why my gear is the way it is. I just want to be subdued and low key. The Mystery Ranch pack, I just wanted one of these for a while. I want to try it out. They're a good pack overall. I like it. Clamshell feature, pretty cool. So let's open this up. Let's break in each one of these categories though. So as I open this up, let's first talk the most important, and that's survival. And this is going to sound somewhat repetitive if you watch my survival videos, because if you can't keep yourself alive, nothing else matters. So what do we need to keep ourselves alive in survival, and what should we definitely have with us at all time? Fire, water, shelter, food. Now that might look a little bit different depending on your situation, but I'll show you what mine looks like. So when we think, let's say water, first of all, right, we got to be able to hydrate. One of the most important things before I pull this little thing out is just to have some water with you. So to me, I think it's important I can just open this up and start to drink water. I always have a case of water in my truck and all my vehicles. When that thing runs low, I stop at the dollar store and throw another case in. So very easily refillable with actual water that I can drink. I think that's important. And then I just carry along, this is the Grail. You saw it in other videos. It's the titanium one, so I can really quickly disinfect water. And then I also have a metal container to boil, absolute worst case scenario there. So we have water, and then food, okay. I just have some Cliff Bars. Sometimes I have a little bit more, sometimes a little less. I try not to go under 2 Cliff Bars in my kit. And part of the reason for this, if I had to, again, we're always talking worst case scenario here with this type of kit. If I had to walk from where I work to my property, or from my home to my property, or my property to my home, the worst scenario is it's gonna be about 6 to 7 miles. So I can do that with some water and some Cliff Bars easily. Now, if your situation's different, I know one of my instructors, he travels for work 30, 40, 50 miles. He has a lot more food than I have, and rightfully so. So you got to just play this on your own situation. But still, we're covering water, we're covering food, shelter, okay? That's a big one. So in my case, I always dress appropriately for the season. I just got in the habit of doing that, being an outdoor instructor. But what I always make sure I still have along with me in this type scenario is a few things. So extra clothing is a big one. So I have that in just a little waterproof bag here. Almost waterproof. I know somebody say that's not totally waterproof. Almost waterproof. I got a raincoat in there because rain's one of those things, tough always to prepare for that and have something, but I do. I have a little raincoat. I have a scarf with me for warmth if it gets cool. I have 2 extra pairs of socks, and I just have a buff that I could put over my head or use it as a hat or a beanie. So that's going to give me a lot of extra warmth, covering my shelter component. But then along with the shelter component, okay, got to have the T60 just in case. Again, I have very short distances I would ever really need to travel with a kit like this, but in my case, if I did have to stay overnight, this, even in cold conditions, and that with a campfire, which you're going to see here in a little bit, I'm going to be good to go. I do have a Snug Pack jungle bag. Now this is not, of course, rated for super cold temperatures, but again, you put the T60 up, you have the Snug Pack, you have a fire out front, I'm dressed appropriately, I have some extra socks and extra warmth type clothing. I'm gonna be fine. I could tell you that from personal experience. I'm gonna be good to go. And then last, I have a fire kit, a little bit heavy on the fire kit because I'm a survival outdoor guy. So I like to have a lighter, I have matches, I have a ferro rod and fire starters. Again, covering all my bases with that. So there we go. So survival, fire, water, shelter, food. I'm keeping myself safe and I'm keeping myself alive. Anything else outside of that, okay, I can then deal with moving forward. So let's move on now to communication and travel. So let's first address travel, okay? First thing I have in here is a custom topographical map of my, what I would call operational area. This has everything in here. So again, it's a small area, 7-8 miles. My wife, where she works, where my kid goes to school, where my shop is, where my parents live, where my house is, where the school property is like there. And I'm there 99% of the time. So that's really what I focus on. And that is on this map itself. And of course, to go with the map, you need to make sure you have a compass, okay? Very important there. And I have a notepad with pen and paper. One thing that I swap in and out of this kit is a GPS unit. I generally rely more on my phone for GPS than I do a GPS unit. Now, the downfall with that, of course, is if you lose cell service or you don't have cell service. There are companies out there, Garmin's a good one, that you can actually get satellite texting, okay? You got to pay a fee for that every month, but if the other members in your family have that, you can still communicate even when these things go down. But this is my means right now because I have it always with me, and along with me, that's what I go with. And then I also include a headlamp in the travel portion of this kit because I can put this on and I can still navigate and move around. Even if it's just at my current location, to me that's still important. Headlamps, red lens and white lens, very important. All right, now the last portion of this is going to be personal protection, and this is where it gets most dicey and most confusing. And the reason why is because the first thing most of us think about throwing in is going to be some type of firearm. So when we think about that, our mind right away goes to the military and law enforcement, which rightfully so. I mean, they have the most experience dealing with firearms and firearm use on another human being, right? So if we're thinking of protection in that way, I get it. But what happens is people go down that rabbit hole and their whole kit starts to look military. But we're not military units, so you got to keep that in mind. So when it comes to personal protection, I am a gun guy. I'm 2A all the way, right? So I carry an AR-15 with me. 99% of the time it's my truck gun. Something happens, that's what I'm grabbing. I have some extra ammo here. The rest would be with my gun when I grab that thing. Get some good training with that and you'll be set to go. Again, personal choice. Some people want bear spray. Some people, I don't know, a hammer. Whatever you're most comfortable with carrying, that's what you need, okay? So personal protection for me, something we're looking like a firearm. And then I'm also looking at a first aid kit, trauma kit type situation, just in case something bad would happen. I can bandage myself up. All right, next, gloves. Again, personal protection type thing. Gloves, we know from a camp perspective, also just being safe when you're out moving around can be helpful. So I just have just a pair of work gloves in there. So for me, that's all the protection I need, right? I don't feel I need to go anymore. I have a firearm if we had to take it to that level. I have a first aid kit, which we know Dan doesn't really carry, but I have a lot more trauma equipment in there, and I have a pair of gloves. So that covers just about everything. So from all the different scenarios that I can walk myself through that I would feel that I'm going to come upon, right, that I'm covered. I got it pretty good. Because again, I'm operating in a rural environment, more woodlands, a lot more travel in the woods, being a little bit more low-key. I'm going to be good to go. Now, personal protection, let's talk just quick about that. We're thinking like a city type setting, right? One of my instructors, he was in New York City. Well, a couple of my instructors spent a lot of time in New York City. Gas mask, you might, who knows? You might need that. That might be high on your list of priorities. Maybe you want some type of body armor plate in here. You can go down that hole, right? You can do a lot of different stuff here with this kit, but these are the three main topics that you want to cover with yourself. Now, outside of that, I honestly only have one more little pouch in here, and it's just a repair kit, okay? And it's not a repair kit as you're all thinking, you know, bushcraft style. I do have some rope in here. I have some duct tape, just a small roll of that. I have extra batteries. I have some zip ties, and then I have just a small cleaning kit for my firearm. I think that's important to be able to take care of that when you're out and about. So that's, in my mind, the repair items that I would need, again, in that very short jaunt home. All right, and there you go. That's our loadout. Simple and easy, 3 categories, and you can build them out as much as you would like for your own personal preference. I know this this one's a little bit different than videos that we have been doing, but it fits the realm of stuff. At the end of the day, I just want all of you to be prepared and be safe no matter where you're at, and I think it feeds in really well to what we do. If you like this stuff, hit like and subscribe down below. You can also check us out at coalcrackerbushcraft.com for all our classes, our gear, and our blog. We're going to have a class in 2025 more specific to this, and a little sneak peek, we are going to be doing some force-on-force training in the protection realm. So that's going to be really fun during that class. So definitely check that one out for 2025. And then until next video, stay in the woods.